For the seminar today, Energy and Climate Change Policy, we received Mr. Hasegawa from Keidanren, one of the largest Japanese business federation, and also Professor James Key, who is a Research Council of UK Energy Strategy Fellow, very good friend of mine, and we visited the Japanese Ministry of Environment when Jim visited Tokyo, which was last July, was it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And also he's a professor at Imperial College London. You can see his biography with your sort of invitation. He asked me to make his introduction as short as possible, so I'm going to stop here. But it's about how the energy and climate change policy can influence the business sector and vice versa. And as I'm not an expert in this area, I will just hand it over to Jim first. Then, after Jim's talk, it's going to be Mr. Hasegawa. Before Mr. Hasegawa's talk, I'm going to give you a detailed information about Mr. Hasegawa. So, Jim.
Okay, thanks very much. I should say that I don't have a presentation that's ready prepared on the subject of the influence of business on energy and climate change policy. Though it's something when I think about it I probably know quite a lot about. So rather than having a long and formal presentation, I have a few slides which I will use to illustrate a couple of the points that I'm going to make. And there are 5 points to be made. I'm not going to tell you what they are at the beginning, but I will keep account of them to make sure I'm on track. Now, the first point I want to make is that the role of industry in the Japanese and the British economy is actually very, very different, and the structure is different. And I actually just pulled this off the International Energy Agency statistical database this afternoon, and it shows industrial energy use normalised by the size of the Japanese and the UK economies. So basically, in terms of industrial energy use, Japan uses about twice as much energy for industry per unit of GDP as the UK. And this, I think, has really quite a significant effect. In many ways, the UK is quite a deindustrialised economy. And there are I've also pulled out there the different sectors that contribute to that industrial energy demand. And the big differences are in iron and steel, which is an absolutely huge difference between the economies. That's the blue one at the bottom. The next one up red is the chemical sector. It's also very different. But there are also other sectors like paper, print and publishing, which are different. So basically, the energy-intensive sectors of the economy are much less of a contributor to UK economic activity than is the case in Japan. It's a very, very striking difference. And the changes have also taken place. These are the UK figures for industrial energy since 1990. And there have been very significant changes over that period of time. UK industrial energy demand is more than a third less than it was in 1990, and it's actually 60% less than it was way back in 1970. And this hasn't happened smoothly. There have been various periods where there have been really quite remarkably fast changes in the UK structure. In the recession of the early 1980s, we lost a lot of energy-intensive industry. It tended to happen a bit as well in the early 1990s, and since the recession of 2008, there have also been quite significant changes. But the one that I would flag up is that iron and steel is the one that's quite a big orange bar on the left-hand side. By the time we get to 2012, that has almost vanished. We have seen very, very major changes in the UK economy over that period of time. And now there are 5 sectors that account for more than half of industrial energy demand. So chemicals has stayed up, food and drink is still there, mineral products like cement and bricks, products that you don't typically transport around the world, they're also high, and paper, and finally the vehicle sector, which we have to thank the Japanese companies for propping up through all of the inward investment, for which we are extremely grateful within the UK economy. So we have seen a lot of changes over that period of time, really very quite substantial, and the differences between Japan and the UK are quite big. And needless to say, I'm going to argue that that actually affects the way that different businesses influence energy and climate change policies. Now, the second point I wanted to make was about the prospect for reshoring of industry, which is a concept that's been talked about quite a lot, particularly in the United States, as they've seen natural gas prices fall. And indeed, people in the UK have also talked about the possibility of reshoring some industrial activities back to the UK because of changes in economic structure. Now, this is one of the saddest pictures I've ever compiled, and it is based upon, on the left-hand side, the line coming down is actual industrial demand for energy in the UK, and the various ski jump pictures on the right-hand side show the triumph of hope over experience in the Department of Energy and Climate Change, which shows what they projected industrial energy demand to be at various points in time. So we've almost always had this concept of reshoring and industrial energy demand going up again. As you can see, if you go back to the top line, which is the projection made in 2006, they expected industrial energy demand to be about 40 million tonnes of oil equivalent back in 2006. The actual outturn is about 25. So that divergence between hope and expectation, hopes and reality, is extraordinarily large. So I want to put on the table, I think, the idea that we should approach cautiously the idea that there will be a massive reshoring of industrial energy activity that may actually lead to industrial energy demand either stabilising or going up again. The latest projections from the Department of Energy and Climate Change, in fact, show level industrial energy demand in the future, which I wouldn't disagree with. Now, the other point I think to flag up about that is, even if there were reshoring of industry in the UK, you would definitely not see the opening of a new integrated steelworks. That is simply not on the horizon. We've lost almost all of our primary aluminium industry, and we have no comparative advantage in that. It wouldn't come back again. But where we may see activity coming into the UK is more knowledge-based, advanced manufacturing, where the UK does have some potential comparative advantages that could be built on. But these are not energy-intensive activities and would not be reflected in high levels of industrial energy demand. So that was really my second point, a little bit of scepticism that we would see a reshoring to such an extent that industrial energy demand would actually go up again. Now, the third point I'm going to make is that there has been a change. The changes in the UK economy have affected the way that the business sector, taken as a whole, has interacted with public policy. If you went back 20 years in the UK and you looked at the Energy Committee of the Confederation of British Industry, you would have found British Steel there, British Sugar, major electric utilities sitting there. That same committee now would be made up of a different set of people who are much more towards banking, retail, the service parts of the economy. And what has been very interesting over the last 10 years or so in the UK is the way that sections of the business community have come together not to fight against ambitious climate change policies, but to wave the flag for it and encourage the government to keep moving forward with ambitious kinds of initiatives. And one of I've called this Industrial Influence 2.0. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but there's a group called the Aldersgate Group, which is a group of companies that gets together and essentially lobbies quite hard to maintain climate policy at its current ambitious level. And it's very easy to see, just what the mixture of these companies is. There's a lot of famous logos up there. The only one from the electricity sector is actually National Grid, which is an infrastructure company rather than an electricity generator. But other than that, you see a lot of companies that have moved much further down the retail chain. So Asda is up there from the supermarket side. PepsiCo, Sky, BSB, Thames Water, I think, is the only other utility there, and say Kingfisher there that owns the Curry and PC World stores that sell appliances. And these are all companies that really have a different perspective from traditional heavy manufacturing industry and are now trying to exert an influence over climate and energy policy in the direction of making it more ambitious. So I think over the last 10, 20 years or so, we have seen a significant shift in the centre of gravity within the business community in terms of what kind of policies that you would actually lobby for. And indeed, that's perhaps not surprising, because when the electricity industry was privatised in 1990, a major part of the objective was to shift the balance of power in the industry away from producers towards consumers. And that, I think, this is a manifestation of that kind of change that's taken place over the last 10 to 20 years. Now, I just want to, that was my third point about the changing centre of gravity within the business community. The last 2 points, I'm not going to keep going for 20 minutes on this, by the way, you might be pleased to hear. The last 2 points relate to the role of utilities in the policy domain, or the policy space, and the role of energy-intensive industry. And picking up the utilities, first of all, David Cofe is sitting in the audience and will remember the battles that took place over acid rain and whether we were going to introduce strict environmental controls for sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. And then it was very much the case a government or NGOs would be pushing for more ambitious environmental policies, and the utilities would be resisting, pushing back against that because of the cost. It has been interestingly different over the last 6, 7 or 8 years as the UK has developed a very, very ambitious climate change policy, where the electric utilities have not actually opposed that level of ambition, even when people like the Committee on Climate Change, which I sit on, has pressed for almost complete decarbonisation of the electricity sector by 2030 or around that kind of time. And I think what you get there is there's a reason why there is not resistance, and it was interesting to look at the utilities as these ambitious climate change targets came through. So the first instinct is to say decarbonisation, expensive, we don't want to do it. And then the penny drops that decarbonisation of the economy also means electrification of the energy market. So suddenly you realise the penny drops and you realise that there's this idea there might be increased market share from that decarbonisation agenda. So a mixed picture for the utilities. Sure, they're going to get challenges in terms of adapting the generation mix, but there are also opportunities from the bigger role that they might play in the economy overall. And I do think worthwhile saying is the other factor, since we essentially at the moment, though the government is doing its best to undo it, we have an oligopoly of 6 main electricity suppliers in the UK. The fact that each supplier would be affected more or less similarly by decarbonisation measures is another factor that I think that mitigates against very strong opposition. As long as it's happening to everybody, the companies can actually live with it. Now finally, the question of energy-intensive industry and the role that they play, because we do still have an energy-intensive users group, and I talk in a very friendly way with Jeremy Nicholson, their director, when I meet him at many different conferences, and they are definitely pushing the concern about the costs of climate policy and what that might mean to their members who are in energy-intensive industry. And I think perhaps there are concerns there, but they are a weaker voice than they would have been 20 years ago because of the changes that I have described. And I think there are 2 kinds of concerns there. One is for the kind of sectors whose direct emissions from burning coal, oil and gas give rise to carbon dioxide emissions. And these sectors are obviously affected by the EU emission trading scheme and any measures that are put in there. But largely speaking, when the Committee on Climate Change has looked at the potential impacts on competitiveness of these sectors, we've been quite relaxed about it. A, because the price of allowances in the EU emission trading scheme has been very low, effectively zero, allowing for some calculation of political risk. and B, because of course they've had free allowances rather than having to pay for them through an auctioning process. And that has diminished really the competitive impacts. I don't think these sectors have been terribly influenced in terms of their competitiveness internationally by the measures that have been put in place in the UK. The sectors that are of a greater concern competitively are those sectors that use a lot of electricity, because they are being affected by various measures under the government's electricity market reform, like the carbon price floor, which is adding a cost on top of the EU emission trading scheme allowance price, and the various other measures, like, for example, having to pay effectively for the green energy, the investment in energy efficiency, wind, etc., that was also falling on them, that might not be incurred by competitors. But again, the government has actually introduced a number of measures specifically targeted at relieving the burden on electricity as opposed to energy-intensive industry that has effectively negated many of these effects of the electricity market reform as it's coming through. So I think, at the end of the day, when you look at the two sets of energy-intensive industry, those with high direct emissions and those with high electricity use, both of them, in a way, are protected from these competitiveness concerns, or have been, by the policies that have been put in place. So again, I think this explains why, at least in terms of competitiveness concerns driving energy and climate policy in the UK, the signals have actually been very weak. Now, business influence was what I was asked to talk about. There are lots of other things that are affecting energy and climate policy, including the potential impacts on the prices paid by residential consumers, and that I think is a very exciting political debate at the moment that has become one of the major sources of competition between the political parties about 15 months before a general election. But I wasn't asked to talk about that. I was only asked to talk about business influence, but if it comes up in discussion, I'd be very happy to talk about these wider issues. But I hope you find these just a few thoughts about this to be helpful.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jim. Jim was previously Research Director of the UK Energy Research Centre, UK ERC. He's also published recently on the impact of intermittent renewables on electricity generation, on gas supply security, and on UK, Japanese and German responses to the Fukushima accident. Now, today is March the 10th, and if you remember, 3 years ago tomorrow, Japan was hit by a disaster, earthquake and tsunami. And obviously, you can imagine what what I'm going to say is the sort of a cascade of disasters, including the Fukushima nuclear power plant incident. Now, our next speaker, Mr. Masami Hasegawa, is going to talk about how business got affected by the energy crisis after the disaster. Not only that, but including that. We experienced planned blackouts in Tokyo, which we never have, ever since the Second World War. We have been enjoying the convenience of the electricity. But that, the Japanese people, especially the Tokyo residents, have to face that. So now Masami Hasegawa, Mr. Masami Hasegawa is a senior manager at the Environmental Policy Bureau of Keidanren. Keidanren is Japan's largest business federation. He joined Keidanren in 1992, and since then Hasegawa-san has taken on a variety of responsibilities, including external economic relations, multilateral trade negotiations, and reforms of company law, accounting system, antitrust law, and security law. After working at a Japanese government's cabinet office in 2005 to 2007, he has, for the past 7 years, been in charge of Keidanren's research and policy making on climate change and energy, and was the author of the recent position paper, a proposal for future energy policy.
Well, thank you very much for your kind introduction from Ms. Ogawa, and also a very good presentation of Professor Ski on the industrial structure, difference of industrial structure between the UK and Japan. And ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my great privilege and honor to be here with you today. And I'd like to express my most sincere gratitude to the organizer, the Daiwa Anglo-Japanese Foundation, for giving me such a great opportunity to share our views on the climate change and energy with you. As Ms. Ogawa mentioned, we have 3 years have passed since the Great East Japan earthquake started and Tohoku region 3 years ago. And since then, Japan has faced many difficulties, including shortage of electricity, and as a business communities, we are very struggling about that. And however, under these circumstances, we are trying to combat in the climate change issues, and we are trying to reduce the CO2 emissions still. Even the nuclear power plants have been stopped since then. So today, I would like to talk about our effort in reducing CO2 emissions, and as well as our struggle to keep the stable energy supply. First of all, I would like to explain about what Keidanren is. So Keidanren is simply speaking, equivalent to the CBI, as Professor Ski mentioned, but we have a little bit unique characteristics. This is a brief data of the Keidanren. The Keidanren is a comprehensive economic organization in Japan. Comprehensive means not sector-oriented organizations. And I write it here, representing mainly big businesses. Actually, in Japan, there are 3 major comprehensive organizations. First one is the Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, JCCI. Second one is Japan Association of Corporate Executives, so-called Keidanren Japan. And third one is the Keidanren. And JCCI is established by the special law, and it has been subsidized by the government, and usually it is considered that they represent small and medium-sized businesses. And Keidanren is, as I mentioned, mainly represent a big business and considered represent interests of big business. And also, both of JCCI and Keidanren's member is a corporation, not individual management people. But on the other hand, Keidanren Japan, Japan Association of Corporate Executives, their membership is individuals, and so people said that's why they are saying their voices a little bit independent from their own corporations itself. And this is one character of Keidanren representing a big business. And we have 1,300 company members and 121 industrial associations and 47 regional economic organizations. And on international front, we are the representative of the so-called BIAC, Advisory Committee to the OECD, and also a member of the Z8 Business Summit, and a regional partner of the WBCSE. And also we have a long-term good relations with the CBI or MEDEF or Business Europe or PDI in Germany. This slide examples our role in policy-making processes. We have a dialogue with ministers, quite high level, or participation or make a presentation in a variety of governmental advisory committees Metis committees or Ministry of Environmental Committee and so on. And sometimes we have a relationship with political parties. We made a presentation in the variety policy-making bodies at these political parties, LDP or Liberal Democratic Party or Democratic Party of Japan or other political parties. And of course, we also have a day-to-day basis activities with Japanese government officials. And that is a very, very official explanation. And Professor Ski mentioned about the scale of the industry may have an influence on the government. Of course, it's true, but I a little bit have different views because when we think why the people in the government or people in the political parties would like to have a voice from the business, probably they would like to know the specific knowledge in that business, or for example, the technology in that business. Let me give you an example. If they would like to reduce CO2 emission in that industry, they have to have a knowledge what kind of technology do they have to reduce the CO2 emissions. So it is very important. But generally speaking, I don't know in the case of the UK, but generally speaking, in the case of Japan, they do not know, Japanese official does not know about the latest technology to reduce CO2 emissions. That's why they would like to have, listen to voice from the business. That is a part of the reason why they would like to listen the voice from the business. That is my observation. In next, yes, from this slide, I would like to talk about our initiative to tackle that climate change. Keidanren's effort is I believe, very unique. But before talking about our initiative, I just would like to explain our fundamental stance in combating the climate change issues. The stance, the key word is technology again. Okay, let's take a next slide. I believe this is very, very famous identity of CO2 emission. This is formulated by the Professor Kaya of the University of Tokyo, former professor of the University of Tokyo, and he divided CO2 emissions into three factors. In order to reduce the CO2 emissions, if we improve the energy efficiency, we can reduce the CO2 emissions, okay, on the consumption side. In the supply side of energy, if we reduce the carbon intensity to energy, for example, if we shift the coal-fired thermal power plant to the renewables or nuclear, we can improve the carbon intensity to energy. That's the second one. And fourth one is that it's simple. If we lower the level of economic activities, we can reduce the CO2. And also if we decrease the population, we can reduce the CO2 emissions. However, at least in Japan, we don't want to. People. Okay, population is not a policy factors. At least here in Japan, maybe other countries we don't know, but we would like to protect the human rights, and we would like to keep the democracy. Population is a very, very personal matter, and also the GDP. We don't want to reduce the GDP. We would like to enjoy the economic prosperity. So that's why we have to address these two other factors: energy efficiency and carbon intensity to energy. And in order to improve them, the key factor is technologies. That is Keidanren's basic position. This chart indicates the importance of technology in other story. Okay, we, including Japan and the developed country, agreed to reduce the CO2 emission half by 2050. And in order to realize this, even this one is CO2 emission from the Annex 1 countries. That one is the CO2 emission from this one is a reduction percentage emission from the non-Annex 1 countries. Even the developed country realized zero emissions. Still, the developing country have to reduce their CO2 emissions 60%, 40%. So imagine that it is very difficult. So we need new technologies to realize this kind of low carbon society or low carbon Earth. So then I would like to talk about the Keidanren's effort to reduce the CO2 emission. Actually, this describes the history of Keidanren's action plan on the environment. We, Keidanren, adopt the global Charter of the Global Environment in 1991, and then the Keidanren issued the Keidanren Appeal on the Environment, and then after that, we start the action plan on the environment. It's June 1997, which means before the adoption of the Kyoto Protocol. Before the Kyoto Protocol, we are trying to make an effort in combating the climate change issues. And our initiative is a really a social commitment. And we have a program-wide target. They reduce the CO2 emissions below the 1990 levels. And actually, the period is finished, and we've achieved this target. And transparency is very important to conduct this kind of initiative. So we are conducting a PDCA cycle here. And our effort is quoted in the government policies. And our government make a Kyoto Protocol target achievement plans. And this plan describes Keidanren's action plan is playing a central role in countermeasures in the industrial communities. Next slide is the review process of our initiative. Actually, each industrial association play a very important role. They collect data from their companies, and of course they set up their own target, and they collect data from their member companies, and they report it to the Keidanren, and our committee, third-party committee, evaluates it, and also the government reviews our process and the performance of the initiative. This is just a PDCA cycle. This indicates the coverage of our action plans. It consists of 44% of the total CO2 emissions in 1992 level, 1990 level, and which consists 83% of the emissions from industry and energy energy conversion sectors. There's a big coverage. These are the participating organizations to our action plans. Next slide indicates the performance of our initiatives. So we realized 12.1% reduction compared to the fiscal year 1990 as an average of this. This is we achieved our target in this way, and we analyzed the factors how to achieve the target. We divide the three factors: change in production activities and change in CO2 emission factor. This means change in CO2 emission from energies actually. And the third one is very important, change in CO2 emission per unit of output, which represents improving effort to improve energy efficiency. So this factor contributes a lot. So that's why we can achieve this kind of data. This is an international comparison of energy efficiency especially the energy intensive industries. In the many sectors, our energy efficiency level is top all over the world. This is the words in the governmental achievement plan. So, actually, our initiative finished. Keidanren initiative was finished at the same time of the first Kyoto Protocol commitment, first period of Kyoto Protocol. Then we started a new initiative, so-called Keidanren commitment to a low carbon society. It's aiming at from this period is from 2013 to in the future. Then actually we announced the basic concept in 2009. It's very before the end of the first commitment period of Kyoto Protocol, and then in January last year, we released a commitment in integrating participating industry action plan. Actually, we announced the basic concept and asked each industrial organizations to participate in this kind of initiative. And many industrial organizations, I will explain later, we said that we will join this kind of initiative. Then we have released this one. We have four pillars in this initiative. First one is reduce the CO2 emissions in their own operations. This is first one. Second one is we said a stronger collaboration with consumers. We said that, but actually it is said that we would like to contribute to reduce CO2 emissions through the products, not a process in the factory, but by the products. For example, it is very difficult to pronounce, but Toyota has a Prius. It's a hybrid car, and if someone uses a Prius, he or her can reduce the CO2 emissions because the gasoline emits a lot of more CO2 than the electricity. So in that way, we can, we business community can contribute to CO2 emission through the products. We call it a life cycle process, including the products. This is the second pillar of our new initiative. And third one is international cooperation or contributions. If we have we have very high-level technologies in terms of energy efficiency, and then we transfer such kind of technology to the other countries. We can contribute to the reduce the CO2 emission globally, and this effort have a very big potential to reduce CO2 emissions, I believe. And fourth one is related to technologies, innovative technologies. As I mentioned, it is very difficult to realize halving CO2 emissions by 2050 on global basis. But so in order to realize that, we need a very, very new innovative technologies. That's obvious. So that's why we are trying to make an effort in this area. Then, so this is the 4 pillars of our new commitments. These are the participating organizations. Now we have 45 from industry. Yes. And also we have six organizations. They would try to join it. This is again BDCA cycle for this commitment. And this is just an interim wrap-up. And we will continue to be a front runner to lead world energy efficiency and promote this initiative for post-Kyoto Protocol commitment period. And also we will contribute to the global emission reductions through the technology assistance or transfer, and promote the research R&D activities in pursuit for breakthrough technologies, and continue to effort in reducing CO2 from homes, office, and transport through the products. That is my presentation to our effort. And I prepared this slide, but I would like to omit this part because of time. And probably if you need a... これかかってないですね。歌詞がかかってないですね。Okay, if you need this kind of slide, please contact me or secretary of the foundation. And now shift the topic to the energy policies. As I mentioned, and Ogawa-san also mentioned, energy is a very, very important topic after the Great Eastern Japan earthquake. So it occurs 11th March in 2011. And then the previous government want to review their energy policies, and they adopt the new energy policy, so-called Strategy for Innovative Energy and Environment, which stipulates a so-called zero nuclear target in 2030. And after the Liberal Democratic Party got the power, and the Prime Minister Abe said that they will review on zero-based the strategies. And then they start the discussion at the advisory committee of METI. And then December in last year, the committee decided that its so-called opinion for basic energy plan, and the government invites the public comments for that. And then in February last month, the government decided the new so-called draft basic energy plan, which is reflected by the comment from the public. And now what the government is doing is that the ruling parties and the Liberal Democratic Party and the new Komeito is discussing their draft plan. That is the current stage. And the government officially said that the new basic energy plan will be decided by the end of March. And so now they are doing the discussion among the political parties, and key actors there. The first one is the Research Commission on Natural Resources and Energy Strategy at LDPs, and the renewable energy team in the commission, and some of the members are very strong supporter to the renewable energies. And also the new Komeito. This is a coalition party of the Liberal Democratic parties. This is actually the Keidanren's position in near term, in the area of energy in near term. We are focusing on three things in near term. First one is contaminated water issues. This is very important for Japanese people. We are really worried about that. A second one is the decommissioning of the plant in Fukushima. These two are actually after the Liberal Democratic Party took a power, government taking a more behave a more responsible way. Actually, the previous government said maybe it's a matter of the TEPCO, Tokyo Power companies, and the government is not in front of the issues. So, but after the LDP got power, the government want to take action very proactively. We are very support. We'd like to support such kind of stance of the current government. Third one is related to the economic activities. Really, we are struggling in the shortage of energy supply and raising electricity prices. So we'd like to solve this kind of problem in the short term. So, in order to solve this problem, we are asking to the government. Of course, safety is very, very important, and it's a prerequisite. But we are asking the government to restart the nuclear plants as soon as possible. Of course, safety is very important. So that's why we are saying that increase the human resources of the reviewing bodies. We are proposing such kind of things. Now I'm talking to the energy policies in the longer term. We emphasize this kind of things. The balance is very important. Energy securities and economic efficiency and environmental suitabilities, and of course safety. We call this one S+3E. This balance is very important. Actually, the safety is a prerequisite, not balance. Balance of three things is very important. And also we emphasizing importance of the consistency with the our new growth strategies. they are trying to achieve 3% of the economic growth in a nominal basis and 2% economic growth in the real basis. So we need a consistent to the strategies. So I would like to explain our positions and the current stage of the discussion by electricity resources. First one is the nuclear. Our position is that our basic stance is nuclear is important, extremely important energy source. It's our basic position. So from the viewpoint of energy security and also the viewpoint of the climate change, we believe it is still important. And in order to realize utilize the nuclear power, we are proposing three things actually. First one is enhancing the safety system. We are asking the government to increase the human resources of the safety regulatory authorities. And also that we are asking the government to, the authority has to be well informed. They should have a communication. They have to be independent, but they have to have a good communication with the operators or plant makers. Second one we are proposing is that rebuilding a compensation system for nuclear damage. This is a little bit technical, but okay, if the accident has happened, it is revealed that it is very, very difficult under the current damage system. Okay. Japanese compensation system for nuclear damage, if the nuclear accident happened, the basic legal framework is tort law. So it's the same system of the traffic accident. So each, in the case of TEPCO have to react to each victims. But in the case of a nuclear accident, there are a lot of victims, and they are evacuated to all over the nations. It is very, very difficult for TEPCO to contact each victims. So probably the current system has to be reviewed where the operators want to enter the nuclear business. So that's why we are proposing the government to review this system. And also the Japanese system is, operators have to take unlimited liabilities. So it is, in order to enter that kind of market, they have to take a lot of risks. Probably it is very difficult. Sustainably operate such this kind of businesses. And fourth one is that we are saying that establishing a so-called nuclear fuel cycle, this for energy securities. And this is the current situation of the discussion in the government. Okay, as I mentioned, METI's advisory committee issued the papers the end of last year, and invite a public comment. And after that, they decided draft plan last month. So it have to say that there are difference between 4 points in the nuclear area. First one is the order. The opinion of the advisory committee said the nuclear securing resources, renewable energies, and energy efficiency. But the paper in February, the first one is securing resources, and the nuclear is here. Second point of difference is as a position of the nuclear in energy policies. The previous one said the fundamental and important base power source. Now the important base load power source. There are two differences. They omit the fundamentals, and they change the word base power to the base load power. Third point of the difference is dependence on nuclears. They said that, previous one said lower the country's dependence on nuclear power as much as possible. This part is the same. They did not make changes. It's the same word. Second, this one is different. Okay. We will determine the amount of nuclear power we need to secure from the viewpoint of stable supply, cost reduction, climate change policy, and maintaining technology and human resources, and secure it. That is the December version. February version, they omit the secure it, and secure it, they omit it. And fourth point of difference is first breeder reactors. They said, previous one is, December version is, they mentioned the first breeder reactors according to the Monju research plant. But they omit the first breeder reactors. There is no word here. Now, this version of the paper has been discussed by the member of political parties, and there are two actors. And some parliamentary member of LDP said they are strongly insist that so-called zero nuclear policies. And the new Komeito, the Komeito coalition party of the Liberal Democratic Party, this party basically supports the zero nuclear policy. And they are very reluctant to pass the nuclear fuel cycle. And they said they are also very reluctant to pass the first breeder reactors. So the wording of this might be changed by the influence of these opinion of the political parties. Next one is fossil fuels. Our Keidanren basic position is that we have to utilize this one, despite the drawbacks of more CO2 emissions and other energies. So that is our basic position. And also we don't have any natural resources, so diplomacy is very, very important to purchase the fossil fuel from overseas. But domestically, we have potential, so that's why we are emphasizing that exploitation and commercialization of domestic resources. And also dealing flexibility with environmental assessment for coal-fired thermal power plants. Actually, before the earthquake, the Ministry of Environment almost prohibited to establish a new coal-fired thermal power plants. So we are asking the ministry to flexibly apply this environmental assessment process. Regarding the fossil fuels, probably we don't have any differences between the government, and probably the proposed draft basic energy plans wording will not change. Probably among the political parties, the stance position is not so widespread. renewable energies. This is our basic position. We believe renewable energy is very, very important and for its high potential in terms of energy security and the global warming perspective. It is very important. However, there are challenges such as a low efficiency, and unstable of power, and high cost. So we believe the research and development is needed. And in order to utilize or prevail the renewable energies, we introduced a feed-in tariff system, and but unfortunately, Keidanren is strongly opposed it. We believe that current level of the technology of renewables is not so high, so we make an investment to the research and development rather than the prevailing the current level of renewable energies. That is our position. And now we are discussing the renewable energies. The point is that now the draft basic energy plan does not have numerical targets for the renewable energies. But some politicians said that they have to say the plan have to have a specific numerical target for renewable energies. Some of them said the issue is undergoing. Finally, I would like to mention the electric reform, system reform. So our position is that competition is very important. So we should first utilize the market mechanism even in the electric system. However, it is very difficult to design the good electricity system. So many countries has been struggling to pass the good design for the system. That is the first reason. And second one is now the electricity is not enough for Japan. So the supply is short. So during such kind of time, if the liberalized market, the price will be high. Economics says that. And the third one is that if we fail to design the new system, we cannot impose the electricity because of the island countries. It is very big issue. So that's why we are asking the government to discuss carefully. Yes, I emphasize the importance of technologies, and actually we made a questionnaire survey to our members, and there are 20 technology fields on the energy supply side here, and 14 technology fields on the energy demand side. I just introduced this one. And we make the input to the government to this, and they issued a new R&D plan last year, and many of them are in the government plans. So now I end my presentation by this slide. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much.